The Associated Press had an interview with Bill Cosby on November 6th. Since then, 2 more women have come forward alleging that he had raped them decades ago. But during the November 6th interview, he was actually asked about some of the rape allegations in the past, and he wasn't too happy about those questions. Take a look.
I have to ask about your name coming up in the news recently regarding this comedian.
No, we don't answer that.
Okay. I just wanted to ask if you wanted to respond at all about whether any of that was true.
There's no response.
Okay. Can I ask you, if with the persona that people know about Bill Cosby, should they believe anything differently about what?
There is no comment about that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think you were told. I don't want to compromise your integrity, but I don't talk about it.
How are you compromising his integrity? Anyway, you should answer the question. But of course he's not going to answer the question. Anyway, I'm not going to go ahead and speculate, but
I don't know what to say.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I really don't. You know, I've read every piece of, every article, every tweet, everything that I've come across about this. I haven't avoided it. I've actually been really curious about it. And when I'm sitting there alone in a room reading this, I still can't form an opinion.
Yeah.
It's hard when, I immediately as a woman want to say, I don't care how beloved this guy is, how many people he's made laugh. If this is true, I don't want anything to do with him. Screw him. He doesn't matter to me, and I hold him in no regard.
Right.
On the other hand, these are allegations that are decades old. This is the first that many of us are hearing about it. Mm-hmm. It's not something I'm personally comfortable commenting on.
Yeah, I mean, and Cenk and I talked about that earlier this week as the story continues to develop. I mean, as a person who hosts a commentary show, it's your job to report what the facts are on the story and then comment on it. But it's really hard to comment on a story like this when he hasn't been convicted. These are just allegations at this point. Yeah. And Janice Dickinson came forward and she said that she was also a victim of rape. And then people were like, oh, well, she's just looking for attention. And then Howard Stern brings up a tape from when she was on his show back in 2006. And
she said it a long time ago.
She did say it a long time ago. And apparently she wanted to write about it in her book, but HarperCollins refused to do it because they were worried about a lawsuit. So, look, there are 2 sides to this story. And again, since, he hasn't been prosecuted and since he hasn't been convicted, it's hard to, give our commentary. It's all speculation. But here's another thing that I found really interesting. After that interview took place and after he gave that answer, he thought that he was no longer mic'd, or at least it seemed as though he wasn't mic'd, or he thought he wasn't mic'd. And here's what he asked the reporter. Take a look at this.
Now, can I get something from you?
What's that?
That none of that will be shown?
I can't promise that myself, but you didn't say anything.
I know I didn't say anything. But I'm asking your integrity that since I didn't want to say anything, but I did answer you in terms of I don't want to say anything, of what value will it have?
I don't think it will.
Ma'am? What'd you say?
Sorry?
What did you say?
I don't think it has any value either.
Yeah.
And I would appreciate it if it was scuttled. Well, I think if you want to consider yourself to be serious, that it will not appear anywhere. If you will just tell your boss the reason why we didn't say that up front was because we thought that AP had the integrity to not ask.
May I say one thing? When someone asks you to scuttle something, you scuttle it. All right, continue.
Really?
No, I just love that word.
I love the word too.
During that video, somebody said they'd pay me $1 every time I said scuttle.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. You can't really speculate using that video either, but it was an uncomfortable thing to watch,
Yeah.
right? And another thing is the Associated Press spoke to a prosecutor who attempted to prosecute him back in 2004 when a woman came forward and said that she was raped by him. And the prosecutor ultimately said, look, we just don't have enough evidence to press criminal charges against him. However, he did release a statement to the Associated Press, and I thought it was a telling statement. He said, I wrote my opinion in such a way as I thought conveyed to the whole world that I thought he had done it. He had just gotten away with it because of a lack of evidence.
Wow.
So I think that's a strong statement from a former prosecutor who wanted to take up this case but simply couldn't. And sometimes crimes are committed, but there isn't enough evidence to convict someone.
Yeah, and think of the time period too. I mean, I don't know how similar it is, but for whatever reason, I know it's before, you know, either of us were old enough to know or tie our shoes or whatever. But, you know, I can't stop thinking about like Roman Polanski and Jack Nicholson and that whole thing. And at this time, I'm certainly not excusing it, but it seemed that people were kind of okay with celebrities luring non-celebrity young girls over and giving them something to drink and maybe something to, you know, a pill to take. And that seems like, you know, that was kind of going around. I mean, and the way the media is now, I think that people would swoop on that. It would be taken care of. At least it would be in the spotlight and we'd all, you know, be the court of opinion, you know, immediately. But back then, this seemed like this is what people were doing.
I mean, when you really think about it, we have hundreds of thousands of rape kits in this country that have gone untested.
Yeah.
Right? And when it comes to Congress voting in favor of creating enough spending to test those kits, they vote against it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, what we're doing with policies surrounding rape right now, if it's bad now, think about how bad it was decades ago.
Non-existent.
Exactly. So.
And when you talk about, you know, statute of limitations, you don't have a chance. If it's just backlog, the guy just has to sit there and wait out the clock.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, man. It really is.